Hello students, in this session we will talk about problem of objectivity and value neutrality. A very important topic, always you used to get a short note from here. So this is from your chapter 2, okay, of paper 1. So chapter 2 paper 1, this topic is like this: fact, value, objectivity. But if you see the question papers before, you will be getting direct question exactly like this: what is the problem of objectivity and value neutrality, or objectivity and value neutrality. So some of the students always think that objectivity and value neutrality are same. It is almost same but not exactly same. Actually, value neutrality is one of the means to achieve objectivity. To remain as value neutral is one of the means to achieve objectivity, because objectivity will be compromised because of certain values. So if you can remain value neutral, then you can achieve objectivity. So one of the means of achieving objectivity is what? Value neutrality. Okay, so if you need to achieve objectivity, you should be remaining value neutral. Apart from that, there are many other elements also need to be taken care if you need to ensure complete objectivity. So what we will do here is, as always we will start with the context. We will discuss about what is the context of this discussion or this debate. Then you will understand most of the content which you are supposed to write here. Once you understood the context, then there is no problem, right? You can actually, then you need to know what is objectivity, and other things are very easy. Then after discussing the context, I will teach you what you mean by objectivity. So we will discuss what is objectivity, and I'll also tell you what is value neutrality. That confusion can be avoided, okay? So then after that, we will discuss what are the problems sociology is facing to achieve objectivity, or how value biases are coming in the investigation of a sociologist. Okay, so problems in achieving objectivity, or where all sociologists may be compromised in achieving objectivity, or compromised with his values, etc. we will discuss, and then we will see the solutions, or how can you achieve objectivity. Okay, so how to achieve, if not maximum complete absolute objectivity, at least maximum possible objectivity. We will discuss that, and then we will go for conclusion. Whether absolute objectivity is required in sociology, is that desirable in sociology, is that possible in sociology, what is the subject matter of sociology, what is the subject matter of natural science. We will make a comparison, and you will be in a position to write a very good conclusion. So this is how our answer should look like if this question is asked. Simply, if you take last year question paper, directly they have asked objectivity and value neutrality. Then you need to talk about what is objectivity, and value neutrality you should be talking as a means to achieve objectivity. We will discuss those question papers also in detail, then I'll tell you that. But here we will try to understand the problem in achieving objectivity, or the problem in remaining value neutral. Okay, so okay, what is the context of this debate? First, let's start with the context of debate. So we have already discussed about emergence of sociology. So you can write in one line. I've told you any question from your first 3 chapters, you should be starting with emergence of sociology, but you can't write it completely. You just need to write it in one line, everything related to emergence of sociology, that is modernity in medieval Europe, social changes, this led to emergence of sociology, right? So you will write that sociology emerged as a distinct discipline in response to challenges posed before modernity in medieval Europe. So you have explained everything over there. Sociology emerged in response to the challenges posed in before modernity. So we talked about modernity in medieval Europe, etc. we have discussed. Okay, so that should be a first sentence. And after that, what happened? After the emergence of sociology, the initial sociologists wanted to make sociology on the line similar to natural science. So why? What is the reason? Because sociology is relatively a very young discipline. I've told you it was emerged in 1838. Okay, so since it's emerged, actually the initial sociologists wanted to make it on the line similar to natural science. Because it is relatively a young discipline, it is very difficult to get that initial acceptance or initial legitimacy among the academicians, okay, among the intellectuals. So if you need to get the subject accepted as a good discipline or a better body of knowledge, you need to tell that, you know, this is scientific, or this is similar to natural science, because at that time, you know, there was a general obsession towards science. So everybody want to, you know, be a scientist, or everybody will accept something only if it is scientific. Okay, so that was a situation that there was an obsession towards science, and that obsession was there with the initial sociologist also. And you can see in the initial efforts of sociologists, they all tried to make it on the line similar to natural science. For example, Auguste Comte, the founding father of sociology, he's talking about universal laws. Okay, so universal laws of social organization, that shows his concern towards objectivity as well as his concern towards making achieving sociology similar to natural sciences. Similarly, if you see, when we discussed about Saint Simon, he even dreamt of social physics on the line similar to natural sciences. So again, if you see Herbert Spencer, he compared society with an organism, right? And we have seen that comparison when we have discussed the scope of sociology. So this is what the attempt that made by the initial sociologists. Their obsession towards science made them to think of a discipline or think sociology on the line similar to natural science. So what they did, they tried to use exactly the same methods and the concepts, etc., which is used in natural science readily in sociology. But most of the time it has been proved wrong, and this debate arises whether sociology is a science or not, whether you can study the subject objectively like natural science do. Obviously you cannot study the sociology objectively as natural science do. Why? Because natural science dealing with matter whose behavior can be predicted in terms of cause and effect relationship. If I am saying that I am boiling the water at 100 degrees Celsius, no doubt that it will get heat, right? It will get hot. Anytime, any situation, it will get hot. So everybody can make this general conclusion. So generalization is possible in natural science because you are dealing with matter. The behavior can be predicted. You can establish the cause and effect relationship, and you can study it objectively. Howsoever, how many times you conduct the research or experiment, you will get the same result. Reliability and validity is for sure. Okay, you can replicate the result. You heat it now, you heat it after 2 days, you heat it anytime, anywhere. This is what actually going to happen. But that's not the case with sociology. Why? Sociology is dealing with human beings. Human beings have their own consciousness, the behavior of which cannot be predicted. So you cannot establish a cause and effect relationship. And because of that, sociology, there is an obvious limitation in studying sociology similar to natural science and in achieving complete objectivity as desirable in natural science. Okay, but we will see what are the problems in achieving objectivity, and we will talk about some solutions also. So I hope you understood the context. The context is very simple. Sociology emerged. Initial sociologists wanted to make it on the line similar to natural sciences. So they used the methods and they wanted to ensure objectivity in sociological research. Okay, so and later it has been understood that it is very difficult. So ever since this time, this debate is always there, whether sociology is a science or what are the problem in achieving objectivity in sociology. Okay, so this is actually the debate. Now what do you mean by objectivity? Objectivity means the freedom from personal biases. So when we discussed about 1857 revolt, I think if you have watched that videos, I have told you many statements by many historians, right? So if you see one statement from Indian side, if Indian is writing, what he will say the 1857 revolt was the first national war of independence, right? On the other hand, if an English is writing, he will say it's a clash between civilization and barbarianism. So civilization or civilized society, for them it is English, and barbaric society, for them it is Indians, right? So the so-called white man's burden. We have discussed these concepts. So what I want to tell you is it depends on the perspective of the person who is writing. The history differs. Exactly the same case with all the social sciences. It all depends on the individual, and it all depends on the individual values and preferences. Okay, so when an Indian is writing, he will write from Indian point of view. When an English is writing, they will support them. Okay, and similarly, history is biased against South Indians. Why? Most of the historians are North Indians. History is biased against Muslim. Most of the historians are Hindus. History is biased against female. Most of the historians are male. Okay, so I hope you understood what I mean to say. It all depends on the author. It all depends on the person who's writing it. So his perspective will be reflected, his values will be reflected, especially in social science. Will that be possible in natural science? That will not be possible in case of physics, chemistry, biology. Region doesn't matter, religion doesn't matter, language doesn't matter, nothing matters in case of natural science. But all these matters when it comes to social sciences. That's what you mean by, values. All these are different values. So what are the personal biases? From where these personal biases come? Personal biases come from certain values which carry in our mind. Okay, so for example, if somebody is conducting a study on domestic violence, if a lady is conducting a study on domestic violence, the conclusion, and if a male sociologist is conducting a study on domestic violence, the conclusion will be totally different because their personal bias will be involved over there. So and similarly, if a lady who's conducting a study on domestic violence, she may say that it is it is because of alcoholism. If she is subjected to that problem, so she will try to conclude that it is because of alcoholism, but it is not necessarily correct. Domestic violence is only because of alcoholism, but her understanding will be confined to alcoholism because she might be subjected to that, or she might have come across people who is facing most of the domestic violence problem because of alcoholism, either direct experience that she have, or from her colleagues or from her friends she might have came to know that alcoholism is the reason. But there are other possibilities also. Dowry is possible. There are many other reasons for domestic violence as well. Okay, so this is what you mean by personal biases. Your study will be that will be reflected in your study. Now, from where these biases will come? These biases will come from certain values. Now, what are values? Values are certain ideas that we carry in our mind. Based on that, we prefer, we prefer or reject certain things. So values will tell you what is desirable and what is undesirable. So on the basis of values, you choose the desirability and undesirability. For example, patriarchal value, prefer male child. So desirable male child and undesirable female child, or reject female child. So based on values, you prefer or reject, or desirable, undesirable, etc. will be decided on the basis of values. And how these values are coming? Values are formed from childhood onwards, from your family, from your education, from your region, from your religion. All these are essential components in framing values in the minds of you. Okay, so all these values will be there, and you try to evaluate everything on the basis of values that you already carry. So that values can be related to region, it can be related to ethics, it can be related to ethnicity, it can be related to gender, it could be related to anything, it could be related to religion, it could be related to anything. Okay, so values are the main reason why personal bias will be there, and because of that you may compromise on objectivity. So what you need to do to ensure objectivity? One of the means to remain objective is actually remain value neutral. So value neutrality is a precondition so that there won't be any bias, there won't be you can ensure objectivity. But to ensure objectivity, certain other conditions also need to be satisfied. Okay, we will discuss that. So objectivity means freedom from personal bias. Personal bias will come from values. So what you need to do to ensure objectivity? Be value neutral. So value neutrality is a basic precondition to ensure objectivity. So value neutrality is a basic precondition for conducting an objective study. So I hope you understood the relation between objectivity and value neutrality. Okay. But in sociology, according to Weber, even if you accommodate values, you can be objective, because sociology is different to natural science. So I'll come to that later, but that is some higher level understanding. According to Weber, a prominent sociologist, according to him, his opinion is sociology is totally different to natural science. So in sociology, you can be objective even while considering the values also. That perspective we will discuss when we discuss Weber in detail. You will not face any problem. Okay. So if you have any doubt related to any of the discussion that we have done so far, you can get in touch with me. That's my Instagram ID. You can join the Telegram channel. You'll get all my videos over there. History is there, economy is there, ethics is there, quantitative aptitude is, every videos is there. Actually, it's a one-stop solution for your complete civil service preparation. Or you can directly get in touch with me. That's my number, 9790-892-697, 98955 775. You can write your answers to me. Sociology you can write GS and ethics and everything. I'll get it evaluated and we'll have a live discussion also. Okay, so I hope you understood this context. What you mean context, you understood. What you mean by objectivity, you understood. What you mean by value neutrality, you understood. Now what we need to say, where you will face the problem of this personal bias. For example, if you take inductive study. Okay, now inductive study, that's related to science, right? Inductive study is a scientific method. Deductive approach is used in social science. We are not questioning about values, or we are not questioning about objectivity in deductive approach, because in deductive approach even subjectivity is favored, because first you make the hypothesis and you try to make it correct, you try to prove it. Okay, so in that context subjectivity is always possible. Nobody is questioning the subjectivity or objectivity in the deductive approach, but in inductive approach objectivity or subjectivity will be always questioned. So when we talk about this objectivity, we are concerned about inductive approach. So what are the steps? First is the accumulation of data, that means collection of data. So first step, accumulation of data. So here you face the problem, right? What are the different methods of data collection? It can be observation, it could be survey, it could be interview, it could be questionnaire. Whatever methods you use, the survey may be biased. Okay, the people you are surveying may be biased. At the same time, the sample size that you select may be based on your convenience. You may not select a proper sample size. Okay, so all these involve bias. Then participant observation or observation simply can also colored by personal biases. I'll give you an example for that. William White's study on Italian criminal. I'll give you an example here in the session itself. Then if you conduct an interview, your questions will be based on your own personal bias firstly. It is very difficult to conduct interview questions without any personal bias. So your questions will be colored by your bias. At the same time, the person who is answering the questions, he may not answer it correctly. What is actually there in his mind and what he is answering may be different, and whatever he is answering, there may be a possibility of his personal bias also. So there may be you compromise on objectivity because of interviewer and interviewee personal bias if you go for an interview method for collection of data. Similarly, questionnaire, survey, observation, everywhere this bias is possible. Second is interpretation of data. Okay, interpretation of data. See, when you interpret data, see, if you remember, we talked about functionalist. Functionalist will follow a functional approach. They try to see everything in functional terms. Something exists in society is necessarily fulfilling certain function. That's why it is existing. Even they say, for example, Durkheim says certain rate of crime is normal in society. Certain rate of suicide is normal in society. Why certain rate of crime is normal? Because if crime is not there, then the police and judicial system will not be vigilant. At one point of time, something big is happening. Now you cannot blame anyone now. Okay, then there may be a total social disorder or a total turmoil or chaos will come. So a normal rate of crime is actually desirable for the proper functioning of society, because policing, judicial system will be functioning properly and it will be vigilant also. Similarly, everything is justified by the functional perspective, because something exists in society is necessarily fulfilling certain functions for society. That's why it is existing. Otherwise, it won't find its existence in society. The society itself will remove that. Society have the capacity to do that. That is actually the assumption of functionalist. But if you see interpretation, if you are a functionalist, even some extreme forms of inequalities or extreme forms also you may try to justify, but that is not desirable. That is a bias. That is a functional bias. If you are a functionalist, that doesn't mean that extreme big crime, raping a 3-year-old child, etc. You don't want to justify that. Okay, extreme forms of inequality. Inequality you can justify. Normally you will justify, because inequality is desirable in sociology. Everybody cannot be equal. That is a utopian concept. The concept given by Marx, the communism or socialism, is utopian concept. The so-called socialist and communist society, they are not the real communist or socialist society which Marx visualized. That is entirely different. That is not the Marxian version. That is their own version of communism and socialism. Okay, so Marxian version of communism and socialism, those are utopian concepts. Never will come into existence. That is not possible. An egalitarian society is never possible, because there will be total disorder. Okay, so some kind of inequality will be there in all forms of society. It was there in all non-forms of society, and it will be there because society maintaining that inequality for the functioning of society. Okay, we will come to that in detail when we discuss about stratification. But what I'm saying is, if you have that bias, you will try to justify even the extreme abstract forms of inequalities. That is not desirable. Okay, so there will be a functional bias. A person with functional bias even try to justify the extreme forms of inequality. That's not required. Extreme crimes, that's not required. Okay, third step is theory building. So in theory, if you see, we will be studying about a lot of theories. Marx theory we will study, Durkheim's theory we will study. For example, if you take the theory of religion, okay, Durkheim says it is functional, because Durkheim is a functionalist. He will try to see everything in functional terms. So religion is functional, religion having an integrative influence in society, according to Durkheim. But what Marx says is religion is opium of masses. Religion is the hurt of hurtless world, soul of soulless condition, and it's just an opium of masses. It is opiating masses. It is giving false promise to the workers. It is actually created by the capitalists. What is a false promise given to workers? Because you suffer maximum in this world, you will be getting heaven in the next world. So if there is no religion, people will not have any motivation to go for work. So capitalists actually motivating the workers by telling that you suffer here and you will get the heaven in the next next world. Okay, so both are writing in the same material context in the 19th century, but both are using different perspective, and both of their understanding about the same social phenomena is different. Why? Because of the bias. Which bias? Bias in the perspective. Okay, so theory also there will be problem. Okay, etc. So these are the main problems which a sociologist face when conducting a study. So in all these areas, objectivity will be compromised. See, first of all, the value loaded information which you have collected and interpretation will automatically result into a biased theory only. Okay, now apart from that, how can you ensure objectivity? How to solve this problem? How to solve this problem? This also need to be a part of your answer. What you can do is you can have a proper training of the investigator. For example, Weber considered training is an essential prerequisite for ensuring objectivity in sociology. So proper training of the investigator, train him so that the personal bias could be reduced. Secondly, proper use of scientific methods. So develop scientific methods for sociology and use that methods in a better way so that you can avoid subjectivity. Like this we can make some solutions. Okay, now the conclusion is, see, sociology is dealing with human beings. Their behavior cannot be predicted, like in case of natural science who's dealing with matter. So do you think absolute objectivity is desirable in sociology? No. So in sociology, absolute objectivity is neither possible nor desirable. Not my statement, it is Weber's statement. You can quote exactly like this. According to Weber, in sociology, absolute objectivity is neither possible nor desirable. Okay, but sociologists can ensure the maximum possible objectivity by remaining value neutral, by following certain methods, by applying scientific methods, by the proper training of the investigator, etc. Okay, so all these things should be there in your answer. Now let's move on to the PDF without wasting time. So normally what I do is I'll dictate all these in the class, in between I'll explain. So here I've taken up the note, so I'll read it out and I'll try to explain it in between so that you won't miss anything. Okay, so I'll read it faster here. Initial sociologists tried to develop sociology on the line similar to natural science. So first you talk about emergence. As I've told you, sociology emerged in response to challenges posed before modernity in medieval Europe. Then you talk about this. Initial sociologists tried to develop sociology on the line similar to natural sciences. In this context, one of the most important precondition for any body of knowledge to qualify as science was objectivity and value neutrality. Objectivity means freedom from personal bias. So this is the key point which you need to know. The context anyway you know. Objectivity means freedom from personal bias in the investigation. The personal bias flow from different types of values. How personal bias is coming? From values we have discussed. Value is an idea through which individuals evaluate about desirability and undesirability of anything. Whether I need this or not. Whether I need a female child or a male child. Okay, so that is based on the value. If it is patriarchal value, male child. If it is a matriarchal value, female child. Like that it goes. Now there are large number of values like religion, inequalities, ethnicity, gender, etc. which may create biases. Thus what is required to be objective is freedom from these personal biases or value neutrality. So what you need to do objective? You need to be value neutral. So one of the precondition for ensuring objectivity is value neutrality. Okay, so do you think value neutrality and objectivity is one and the same? Not one and the same, but almost same. If you need to ensure objectivity, value neutrality is a precondition, most important condition. 99% value neutrality is the connected to objectivity. Okay, so value neutrality is a basic precondition for achieving objectivity. Since its emergence as a distinct discipline, sociology is often accused of facing the problem of objectivity. The critics of sociology always asserted that objectivity is not possible in sociology. That is for sure, because we are not saying objectivity is not possible. Absolute objectivity is not possible towards the end. Objectivity, to an extent, we are trying to ensure by using proper methods, investigators training and scientific methods, etc. The problem occurs at different levels. As I've told you, accumulation of facts. Although sociology uses number of scientific methods like observation, questionnaires, interviews, but in application of these methods, the value biases of the researcher may hinder the achievement of objectivity. Okay. For example, observation method is often accused of generating faulty information due to the bias of the observer. See, all these methods we'll discuss in the third chapter, research methodology, in detail. This chapter will be handled by a different teacher. Okay, so she's actually an expert in that particular area, research methodology. There you'll talk about participant observation, non-participant observation, questionnaire, interview, surveys. Everything will be covered in detail. So she's an expert in that particular area, research methodologies. Everything else of this paper 1 and paper 2 I will handle, except that particular chapter. Okay, in the famous study of Italian criminal by William White, he observed that the observant finally stopped acting as observer. See, it was a study on Italian criminals. It was a non-participant observation. You stay away and observe. But what happened finally? He stopped acting as an observer and he became part of them. Okay, that's what he's saying. I started as non-participant observer but ended as participant non-observer. Now, in the same manner, interview method may generate faulty information because of the biases of the interviewers and interviewee. Okay, now interpretation of facts. The interpretation of facts can also be colored by various viewpoint or subjective biases. Okay, so for example, a researcher with a functional bias may tend to interpret the extreme forms of inequalities in functional terms. Then formulation of theory. So value-loaded interpretation of facts may generate theories which gives only one-sided view of the reality. Thus, the resulting theories is influenced by the bias of the investigator. For example, Durkheim generated a functional theory on religion, I've told you, whereas Marx considered religion as an opium of masses. He followed a conflict approach, right? Both were writing in the same material context present in the 19th century. So in this way, the problem of objectivity influences sociological investigation. Now, ensuring objectivity has been the main concerns of sociologists since its emergence. Various steps have been suggested in due course of time to help sociology to achieve objectivity. Which are they? This include objectivity can be ensured by proper training of the investigator. The investigator should confine itself to his own area of competence and should study and should be properly trained to use the methods. Okay. For example, Weber considers training as an essential prerequisite for ensuring value freedom. Objectivity can be ensured by making available the results of the investigation to organized skepticism. Organized skepticism means, you see, it's not criticism. Like, you are the researcher, you conduct a study and you come in public, you come to your group where many other sociologists will also be there. So these are the group, and you present your study. So these people will make some logical arguments. They'll tell you in all these areas you could have improved. So what happens? The perspective widens. You could add more and more points from the other sides also. You could see not only your version, the other version also could be seen, and that will actually enriches your understanding and your research or study. Okay, so that's what you mean by organized skepticism. So if that is there, your personal bias could be removed to an extent, because every other viewpoints will also come into your study. Okay, so this will help reduce the personal biases of the investigator. Then what? Sociology has attempted to deal with the problem of objectivity by propagating various concepts which helps in ensuring objectivity. Since its inception, sociology has formulated scientific methods to be used in sociology. So scientific methods. Now, for example, Durkheim's method of social facts, we'll study this in detail. Statistical techniques, we'll study all these in detail. All these are short notes also. You can get short notes, ideal types, you can get causal pluralism, social facts. All these can be separate questions. Okay, all these we will study when it comes to the thinkers. You don't worry about anything, and I'll cover it in details. You'll not face any problem with respect to any of these topics, and thinkers will cover. And actually, that's my strong area, thinkers. Okay, so we'll do it in a much better way. These are methods. Now, some sociologists even went to an extent of suggesting that sociology should refrain from studying what ought to be. You should not study what ought to be, like what it should be. Rather, you should study what it is. So if you study this current thing, what it is, then you can, to an extent, you can solve the problem of subjectivity. If you try to study what it should be or what ought to be, then there will be problem. Natural science can do that. They can predict, they can make universal laws, which will be applicable later also. But in sociology, you can't predict that. It is not required. Okay, so that's about this particular topic. I hope you understood. If you have any doubt, you can get in touch with me. I'll upload the notes in your WhatsApp groups or in Telegram channel. So if you want to have any discussion with me, you can call me, you can get in touch with me. Okay, if you need to write the test, you can write and you can send to me. Okay, so if you need regular classes or online classes or recorded classes, whatever it is, you can contact me. So see you guys. Thank you.